The First Barbary War led to triumph because during the war, the U.S. had gained allies with Sweden and Sicily. The battles that the U.S. were becoming victorious in was giving the Marines a name for themselves. The U.S. victory of the First Barbary War led to the ending of piracy for 10 years and had gained trust and appreciation from other European countries that were struggling with the Barbary pirates. The Second Barbary War led to many treaties, but there was a main treaty that was signed on September 24th, 1816. The British consul and 1,083 other Christian slaves were freed, and the U.S. ransom money was repaid. In the end, the European countries saw that paying tribute to the Barbary pirates needed to end, after seeing the U.S. stop paying the Barbary pirates and leading to the end of the piracy in the Mediterranean, because the pirates could not build good ships anymore to raid and ransom other ships. The final treaty made the pirates return all American captives. Algeria also paid $10,000, and the U.S. granted free shipping in the Mediterranean area.
The First Barbary War led to the tragedy because during the Second Barbary War, the U.S. had lost protection from the Treaty of Paris with France due to the end of the Revolutionary War. The Barbary pirates would not accept any treaties as the U.S. had given hundreds of treaties, but the pirates would not accept any unless they were given $660,000 to all 4 Barbary states. The U.S. was having to pay $1 million to the Barbary pirates, which is 1/6 of the U.S. budget, only to get 115 American soldiers back for being held captive by the pirates. The U.S. finally was able to have the Barbary pirates accept a treaty, but they knew that the pirates would stick to the treaty because they were untrustworthy. But the treaty was the U.S. to be spending $1 million a year for 15 years straight, just so they could trade through the Mediterranean Sea freely. The U.S. gained no help and had no help during the Second Barbary War, because no one trusted they would win again because they have just came out of a major war known as the War of 1812.
From 1798 to 1800, the Americans fought revolutionary France in the quasi-war at sea, which gave their new navy valuable experience. And then, in 1801, when Thomas Jefferson became president, the Pasha of Tripoli, Yusuf Karamanli, demanded that he should be paid as much tribute as the other Barbary states. Jefferson declined this, so war was declared in May 1801. The American Navy was dispatched without Congress having voted, meaning there was no declaration of war, but the conflict did have the backing of Congress. Once in the Mediterranean, they met up with the Swedish Navy, who were already fighting the Tripolitans themselves, and together they blockaded Tripoli. But this proved ineffective and the blockade was soon stopped. There were a couple small naval battles in 1801 and 1802, but they too proved indecisive. In October 1803, the US ship the Philadelphia ran aground and was captured by the Tripolitans. The Americans were unwilling to see the ship used by their enemy, so the following February they launched a daring raid into the harbour of Tripoli and set the Philadelphia on fire before fleeing. Then, with reinforcements, the Americans were able to effectively blockade Tripoli again, and in mid-1804, the Americans bombarded Tripoli harbour, but their fireship Intrepid was destroyed before it could inflict substantial damage. So, the Americans changed tactics. They learned that Yusuf Karamanli had exiled his own brother in order to become Pasha. So, Marines landed in Alexandria, in Egypt, gathered a group of about 500 mercenaries, and marched on land with the intention of capturing Tripoli and replacing Yusuf Karamanli with his brother. In late April 1805, they arrived at and successfully captured the city of Derna. Karamanli, now facing the prospect of an invasion of Tripoli, sued for peace. The Americans agreed to pay the ransom for all the hostages that had been taken, but would no longer pay tribute. However, soon after the war, in the chaos of the Napoleonic Wars in Europe, US shipping was attacked once again, this time by the Algerians. But by this time, the Americans were focused on tensions with the British in North America and eventually the War of 1812. Knowing this, the emboldened Algerians refused the ransom payments and declared war on the US in 1812. It was only in 1815, when America ended its war with Britain, that President Madison dispatched the now large American Navy to North Africa. They arrived in June and quickly defeated the Algerians in naval battles and forced them to pay reparations. Now, America had free passage throughout the Mediterranean. Also, in the aftermath of the Napoleonic Wars, the European powers agreed to suppress the pirates. The British were the first. They tried to free European slaves in Barbary states, which resulted in the bombardment of Algiers in 1816. The power of the Barbary piracy dwindled over the next couple decades, and eventually in 1830, the French annexed Algeria, effectively ending Barbary piracy forever.